Over 25,000 men, women, and children were massacred in the War of Canudos between 1896 and 1897, a dark piece of Brazilian history that most are unaware of. With the breakout success of Hades, it was an inevitability that many would try to duplicate the formula. Although many have tried, none have truly succeeded in emulating what made it special in the first place. This means more than just adding roguelike mechanics to your game. It means crafting an addictive gameplay loop, but equally, and if not more important, pairing it with an engaging story. Hellclock combines and executes flawlessly on two of the most addictive genres of gaming, ARPGs and roguelikes. However, just like Hades, the most addictive thing about Hellclock is the story that keeps you hanging on for new morsels of narrative. In the late 1800s, famine and drought had people looking for salvation as they followed the counselor and built the settlement of Canudos. The counselor was known for believing that to fix the problems, radical change was needed in Brazil. Threatened by this, the government sent the military 4 different times and eventually massacred 25,000 men, women, and children. You play as Canudos warrior and clockmaker fighting to rescue the soul of the counselor deep within the pits of hell over the course of 3 acts. One of the most unique gameplay aspects of Hellclock is that each run begins with 7 minutes on the timer, and when it's over, you go back to the start. It's fairly implemented as it stops during pauses, boss fights, and special encounters. There are also accessibility options if you want to completely turn off the clock, but the timer adds a sense of urgency unfamiliar to the genre. You will also have the ability to unlock nodes on a skill tree that will add more time to this clock, which will still keep the sense of urgency, but it adds a little forgiveness and it still feels rewarding. Hellclock features a 3-act campaign, and after grinding for about 5 or 6 hours in the first act, I was starting to feel a sense of repetition and doubts began to creep in about how the rest of the experience might go. In the first act, you need to descend into hell by entering a cellar in a very nice wink to Diablo. Once into the cellar, you will descend through 18 floors and 3 biomes. I was very concerned that there wasn't enough enemy variety, environment variation, the speed at which I was unlocking new spells, and even the score was beginning to feel slightly monotonous. However, once I finally defeated the final boss of Act 1, all of those fears went out the window. In the blink of an eye, Hellclock felt like a new game with a new rewarding challenge to overcome. There is a lot to like about Hellclock, but one of the most underrated things about it was that you're never able to put Hellclock into autopilot because of the near-perfect difficulty curve. All of this pacing is researched and designed. Rogue Snail discovered that the satisfying feeling of power has nothing to do with difficulty and has everything to do with pacing. In the words of the developers, if you are constantly feeling stronger than the enemies, the game is boring, and if you're constantly feeling weaker than the enemies, the game is also boring. This is the exact same reason that From Software and Souls-like games are highly revered. They imbue the player with a sense of reward and accomplishment as you need to overcome hurdles and challenges that at one point seemed impossible. Hellclock is a bold game with even bolder ambitions from a small team, and as such, there's going to have to be some concessions. The biggest issue that I have with Hellclock at launch is that performance on Steam Deck isn't great. On average, the frame rate usually floats in the mid-30s, but during very hectic areas, especially the further you go into the second and third act, performance can take a dip into the low 20s and even high teens. Hellclock is currently rated as playable, but the good news is that the devs are aware and they are hoping to clean up performance and get Hellclock verified on Steam Deck sooner than later, which would be great because Hellclock is a perfect fit on the Steam Deck when it's working, and even when it holds a steady 30. Hellclock features Brazilian and English voice acting, and although I don't speak Brazilian, it conveys a lot more emotion through the tone that it's delivered in. The English voice acting, by comparison, feels extremely stiff. There are a few performances throughout that are good, but those are the exceptions and not the rule. There are also a few environmental problems worth noting. During hectic battles where the whole run hangs in the balance, you can sometimes get trapped on something small that you can't see or understand. The clockmaker feels too stiff, and I always wanted to have some type of dodge or roll on cooldown that would have increased the movement strategy. In terms of environments, dungeons are procedurally generated, but the layouts never felt overly fresh. The roadmap over the next 6 months includes a crafting system, new character animations, improved dungeon generation, and a paid expansion coming in Q1 2026. The Cursed War will feature a 4th act for the campaign, including new biomes, bosses, skills, and relics. It does sound like 2 of my biggest criticisms are already on the roadmap with improved dungeon generation, and it's safe to assume that new character animation includes something along the lines of a dodge. Before getting to the verdict, I wanted to say thank you for checking out this review. There are a lot of options out there, and I'm glad that you stopped here. If you did enjoy the content, likes, shares, and comments are extremely helpful. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. Video Games is a positivity-first outlet that believes gaming can and should be a force for good. We focus on making uplifting content with constructive discourse. If you love action RPGs like Path of Exile or Diablo and roguelikes such as Hades, you are going to love Hellclock because it combines the best of both worlds. Pillaging the dungeons, looking for loot, and fine-tuning your gear between runs is addictive, but just like Hades, Hellclock strikes a perfect balance between narrative and gameplay. That's all for today, but until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.